Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating Daily Bread passage. It's titled The Angel Ahead, God's Pace and Presence. And whether you're looking at your daily schedule, your relationships, or just your overall spiritual journey, this ancient text from Exodus chapter 23 has some absolutely profound rules of the road for how we move forward in life. So, let's dive right in. All right, I want you to give me a truly honest answer here. Do you feel impatient with your own spiritual growth? I mean, think about it. We get so frustrated when a web page takes, 3 seconds to load? Or when our morning coffee order takes more than 2 minutes? So it's incredibly common to look at our own lives and just feel this deep sense of frustration. We constantly compare where we are right now to where we think we should be by now, and we conclude that we're somehow hopelessly behind schedule. We think our personal transformation is just moving way too slowly. And if that resonates with you at all, well, this text speaks directly to that exact feeling. And right alongside that impatience usually comes a second question. Are you tired of trying to figure everything out on your own? Because we put a massive amount of pressure on ourselves, don't we? We try to chart our own course, fix every issue immediately, and somehow manage our own growth while simultaneously fighting all of our own battles. It is literally exhausting. But the source material we're exploring today completely flips that paradigm upside down. As you'll see, you simply don't have to carry all that weight. Okay, so let's look at part 1, sending an angel ahead. Let's establish exactly who is leading this expedition. The foundation for this whole idea comes from a specific moment in Exodus chapter 23, verse 21, where God is setting the terms for Israel's journey. Listen to what God says here. Pay attention to him and listen to what he says. Do not rebel against him. He will not forgive your rebellion since my name is in him. Wow. That is a powerful, uncompromising directive, isn't it? It establishes immediate authority. God is telling the people, look, I am providing a guide, but with that provision comes a very strict set of responsibilities for you, the traveler. Now, the text makes it crystal clear that the angel God sends here is not your ordinary, everyday messenger. This specific angel carries God's very name, which means he carries God's full and complete authority. In fact, the source points out that to rebel against this guide is to literally rebel against God himself. This angel isn't just standing there pointing the way, he is actively leading the way to a place that has already been prepared. A lot of times we treat God kind of like a personal trainer, someone who's supposed to be pushing us from behind. Or maybe we treat him like a co-pilot, just keeping us company alongside for the ride. But this text shows a radically different truth. God goes ahead of you. He is already out there, ahead of you in your schedule, in your relationships, and in your growth. He goes before his people, and he simply calls us to follow. Which brings us right to part 2, pay attention and follow. Since God is already ahead, paving the way, our job description becomes incredibly simple. The question is never, is God present, or does he have a plan? The real question is whether you are willing to follow the rules of the road. And the text outlines 3 simple but really profound instructions. First up, pay attention. This means not getting distracted or just rushing through your day oblivious to your guide. Second, listen carefully. This requires an active, tuned-in ear to what's actually being communicated. And third, do not rebel. When the direction is clear, you've got to stay responsive. See, our role isn't to draw the map. Our role is to stay highly attentive and responsive, day by day, to the one who is already holding it. And when we actually follow those rules, well, the text highlights this massive foundational promise given to Israel. If you listen carefully and obey, God will fight for you. He will stand against what stands against you. Just take a second and think about the absolute relief in that statement. When you let God take the lead, when you choose to stay attentive instead of resistant, you are no longer fighting your battles alone. The one who goes before you is also the exact same one who defends you. All right, let's shift gears a bit into part 3, growing little by little. So even when we know God is leading, and even if we are genuinely trying our best to pay attention, we still run into that initial problem we talked about earlier, the frustrating pace of our own transformation. To unpack this, the text asks a brilliant historical question. Why didn't God just drive out Israel's enemies all at once? I mean, if God is all-powerful and he's going ahead with full authority, why not just clear the whole board instantly? Why not hand them total victory on day 1? It's a great question, right? It naturally makes us wonder. But the answer we get in verses 29 and 30 is probably one of the most practically wise statements in this entire passage. The scripture explains that if God drove them out all at once, the land would become desolate and the wild animals too numerous. See, God knows the absolute limits of his people. If every single problem was resolved and the land was handed over instantly, Israel simply wouldn't have the population or the capacity to actually manage it. The land would fall into ruin. So instead, he promises to drive the enemies out little by little, directly matching the pace of his work to the growing capacity of his people. We play this trick on ourselves all the time, don't we? We convince ourselves that our spiritual growth is slow because God is just being inattentive, or maybe he's forgotten about us entirely. But the truth is your sanctification is paced because God is incredibly wise. He knows exactly how much freedom, how much responsibility, and how much territory you can actually handle right now. He is intentionally growing you into the capacity for more, but he's doing it little by little. So, what does this mean for us right now? Part 4. Living it out today. Look, it's one thing to understand the ancient history here, but the source material directly bridges this right into our modern daily lives with some super clear actionable steps. Step 1. Start every single day by explicitly asking God to help you pay attention to Him. Step 2. Practice listening to God through His Word. Actually listen, instead of just rushing through it to check a spiritual box. And Step 3. When you do know what God is asking of you, choose immediate obedience instead of putting it off. Remember the anchor phrase here: pay attention and follow. And as for how we handle the actual pacing of our growth, the source has some great advice here too. First, consciously release the pressure to have everything resolved or transformed by tomorrow morning. Take a breath. Second, identify an area where you are super frustrated by slow progress and just ask God what little by little looks like in that specific area this week. And finally, be patient with the people around you. If someone in your community is growing slowly, remember that God is pacing their growth too, for really wise reasons that you might not be able to see from the outside. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a couple of things to really chew on. Think back to that core command. Pay attention to Him and listen to what He says. Do not rebel against Him. Let me ask you, is there an area of your life right now where you know exactly what God is saying, but you've been quietly, maybe even secretly, just not listening? What is actually keeping you from obeying the guide who has already gone ahead and prepared the way for you? And finally, since we know God works little by little because His pace matches our actual readiness, what does trusting that timing look like practically for you this week? How can you replace that exhaustion and frustration with a genuine trust in His perfectly wise pacing? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll see you next time.